11 men accused of rape and murder in the Bilkis Bano case were released on August 15 this year. Her pain at feeling betrayed by the system was evident when she said that she feels suffocated and scared. But the biggest argument cited in favor of release of the Bilkis convicts after due process was that of good conduct of the convicts in jail. Whether it was the Remission or the Gujarat government or the centre all said that the behaviour of the rapist murderers had been good and that's why they deserve to be released. This included C.K. Raul, the BJP MLA, who after the remission came on record to say that the convicts were sanskari. Today, Times now has accessed documents that show that one of the 11 convicts serving life imprisonment was actually charged with molestation while he was out on parole in June 2020. Mitesh Chimanlal Bhatt faces an FIR for outraging the modesty of a woman, a case in which charge sheet has been filed and a trial is still underway. And what could be a symptom of that malaise that infects our justice system? An FIR was only filed 2 years later in 2022. In between, Bhatt was allowed further parole of 281 days. And the same man who has been booked for molestation has now been released after the Jail Advisory Committee reported that his behavior in jail had been good.
What punishment have we given to these people? So what kind of people are we releasing out there? What message is the Home Ministry sending to the women of this country? Every woman of this country is a locus, has locus in this particular case, because this will decide the destiny of our women and empowerment, justice, whatever the Prime Minister keeps talking about from the pulpit of the Red Fort.
However, this is not where the seeming travesty ends. The affidavit submitted by the Gujarat government in Supreme Court details how the convicts who were serving sentence for gruesome rapes and murders got repeated respite from the authorities. In the name of exercising their entitlement to parole and furlough, 10 of the rapist murderers spent over 1,000 days out of jail, which amounts to almost 3 years. Remember, they have spent over 14 years in jail. That's the argument for giving them this premature release. But out of those 14 plus years, 3 years have anyway been out on parole. This revelation comes in the same document that also established that the Gujarat government had taken the approval of the centre while giving a go-ahead for the release of the 11 rapist murderers, and that this was done despite the opposition from prosecuting agency CBI and judges of CBI and Mumbai Civil and Sessions Court. Citing the submissions in the affidavit as evidence, the opposition is up against the moral injustice that has been done.
It was a totally wrong and, you may say, perverted decision. State government of Gujarat used its discretionary powers to release them. And it has been now found that the Ministry of Home Affairs had given clearance for this release. We totally condemn this.
Alright, joining us on the show, we have Subhash Jha, lawyer, Desh Ratan Nigam, also a senior lawyer, Ravi Srivastava, political analyst. I want to first ask you, and we also have Anirban Banerjee, political analyst. I want to start by asking you, Jha, these gentlemen were given the benefit of doubt because of good conduct. Turns out their conduct isn't very good, because even while they were serving the sentence for the rape and murder of Bilkis and her family members, one of them, Chiman Bhai, came out on parole and again molested a woman. What good conduct are we talking about? Mr. Jha, can you hear me?
No, I'm sorry. I couldn't hear you, your last word, what you have said.
My last word
The last word which
sir,
you have
my last word is good conduct. And in fact, that is what is the most baffling. What good conduct are we talking about? Yes. Of these 11, at least one gentleman doesn't seem to have exhibited any good conduct.
See, ultimately, it is the subjective satisfaction of the committee which took the decision. And if the committee finds that the conduct has been good, then ultimately, if it is to be faulted, it is to be flawed, then certainly not. I am on a different issue altogether. Why Supreme Court? Why interference by the Supreme Court, and that too
question,
by
sir.
Strangers?
When a rape and murder accused is let out on good conduct,
yes,
and in the meantime on parole he molests a woman again, how is he being given a certificate of good conduct?
See, ultimately that seems to be the allegation against him, one of the accused out of the 11 who have been set off on remission. But the law permits that to happen. If you see the provisions under section 433 and 433A,
where is the constitutional morality? I am asking you as a lay person simply, sir, that in year 2022, we are told Mitesh Chimanlal Bhatt has exhibited good conduct. Whereas 2 years earlier, in 2020, Mitesh Chimanlal Bhatt has an FIR in which he has been charged with outraging modesty of a woman, intentional insult with intent to provoke breach of peace and criminal intimidation. Please tell me what part of this qualifies as good conduct?
Assuming that what has been alleged. Now, first of all, let me tell you, in this country, FIR is registered with fall of a hat, and I know for sure, after having spent more than 34 years as a practicing lawyer, how FIRs are registered.
Sir, this
so
is
let
not
us
just
not
an
go
FIR.
into that. Assuming that the allegations leveled in the FIR is to be true.
It's not just an FIR,
that
sir.
Could be,
even a charge sheet has been filed. And the irony is that the FIR and the charge sheet is by the self-same Gujarat police, sir. So either you are saying the Gujarat police has filed an illegal FIR against Mitesh Chimanlal Bhatt, or that his conduct is not good, in which case why is he out?
See, filing of FIR filing of FIR and filing of the charge sheet may not be panacea to all the ills with which the legal system is infected with. The issue today is this, and I'm on a slightly different issue.
No, sir.
Whether this issue is to be decided by the highest court of the country
I am here to talk about 11 men who have been released on the basis of good conduct, whereas one of them has an FIR for molestation while he was serving sentence. First of all, one should question the wisdom of granting him parole. He was granted parole and he went out and molested. Then 2 years later they said, oh, good conduct. Now you must be rewarded further. Let's free you. Go.
We have... No. There is no question of rewarding. I'm not holding the brief for him. But the issue is slightly different. Assume that the order of the committee is a wrong order, illegal, patently perverse order. Who has to examine that? The highest court of the country. What happens to the High Court? Why not a petition under 226 is to be entertained? And why a petition under 332 be entertained by the Supreme Court,
sir,
and that too by strangers?
In technical defense is what you are bringing up. Answer me, Mr. Jha, hand on heart. How is Mitesh Chimanlal Bhatt entitled to remission based on good conduct? Just answer me this. As a lay person, I want to know what part of our law qualifies his conduct as good conduct. Leave aside the fact that he was convicted for the rape of a lady. Leave aside the fact that he is convicted for the murder of her family members. I am asking you, while serving sentence, the man is charged with going out and molesting a woman again. What part of Mitesh Chimanlal Bhatt's conduct is good conduct?
See, assuming, so therefore, let us see this problem with a slightly different angle. Now, assuming that out of the 11 people who have been granted remission, one of the accused has committed, assuming that the allegations are true, charge sheets have been filed, neither I have seen the order passed by the committee, nor possibly you have seen the order passed by the committee. Assuming that the order is flawed as against one of the accused, the question is, are you going to hang all 11 others? They have ultimately served the sentence for 14 long years, and only thereafter, even after amendment.
Okay, Ravi Srivastava,
please try to understand the legal
Mr.
position.
Bhatt can be put back in prison, but the others are entitled, says Mr. Jha. Answer. Ravi Srivastava.
I'm sorry, I don't agree with him. First of all, Padmaja, you used the word in the opening remark, the 11 gentlemen. I don't know what kind of gentlemen are they. They are the convicted criminals. First. Second, in the whole thing I find that there is a pure connivance between the police and the jail and the government as well. Now, apart from asking for remission, what should happen? All those officials also subjected to an inquiry that how come these committee gave a report and how come the 1992 remission of the Maharashtra was taken into account while Gujarat had already passed the 2014 remission laws where murderers and rapists are not permitted to be given any kind of a remission. Why? All these aspects should be examined and those guilty must be punished. Because this is a heinous crime and the way these people have enjoyed their imprisonment for 14 years, I must say there is a pure connivance and many people must be brought to book.
Mr. Desh Ratan Nigam, connivance. Because mind you, we're not just talking about remission here. We're talking about repeated paroles being given. Why the love?
Padmaja, let me first answer the question that you posed to Mr. Shah. When one is talking about conduct here, there are two conducts, one inside the prison, one outside the prison. So far as one inside the prison, there is a finding of fact on the record that the behavior was good. Secondly, the conduct outside that we are talking about is the complaint by the person that he is molested. That is, still there is no order or a judgment on that count to be put on record. So that cannot be taken official notice of. If there was an order by the court where the complaint and charge sheet has been filed, holding him guilty, then that would become a part of the record for granting remission. Please understand that would remain mere allegation even after filing of charge sheet. So it cannot be taken judicial notice.
Sir, we are not talking about ordinary people here. We are talking about murder and rape convicts, gang rape convicts. And then 15 years later, when you are examining their behavior, are you saying that they're somehow engaging in a little bit of gardening or perhaps reading an odd book or two inside is somehow going to supersede their behavior outside of prison, where somebody has exited the prison gates, molested a woman and come back, but on his return, he perhaps grew a cabbage patch. And that is supposed to somehow make it all better?
Let me answer, Padmaja. We all are tormented and divided and torn apart as to what the law is and what the law should be. If what the law should be, law needs to be changed, I will be with you. Such kind of people should never be released. But the law as it exists is that they should complete 14 years of minimum imprisonment and a good behavior inside the court. And then the Supreme Court has laid down the guidelines. Two of them important are whether any purpose is being served in keeping the convict in prison and socio-economic conditions of the convict's family, and whether the person has lost potentiality of committing the same crime.
Here's the thing, that this is not just about
by the Supreme Court.
Okay, you're talking about conditions. It is the law, and that is what has been done. The law has been followed, Padmaja Banerjee, and let me again underline that this has been done despite objections to their release by people within the administration. It's not the opposition parties or political opponents. You had the CBI court, you had senior lawyers, you had the police, all of them giving adverse advice, and yet they were released. But what to do, Padmaja Banerjee? Such is the law. You've muted yourself. Please unmute. Yes.
Yeah, the answer to this question is twofold. On one hand, there is the question of good conduct. What constitutes good conduct? I must say that to any person belonging to the civilized world, what good conduct is, for the RSS BJP, it is the exact opposite. If you are a gang rapist, if you are a child murderer, if you are a mass murderer, that amounts to good conduct for the RSS BJP. While, and that is the exact reason their politics is not suited to the civilized world, in my opinion. That's the political part. And now let's go to the legal part. After the petition submitted by one of the convicts in the Supreme Court for remission, the Supreme Court had directed the state government to consider the petition, their appeal for remission. They did not direct the state government to release them. That's one. Therefore, there is a very big area for discretion. Okay. When there is a committee that is constituted by the state government, you include BJP leaders, BJP MLAs within that committee to ponder over the application of people. Let's say this very clearly. The investigating agency in this case was the CBI. The CBI opposed their release. The special court opposed their release. Their behavior has been anything but exemplary. There are multiple witnesses, there are multiple victims who in the course of the parole of these people said, we are being threatened. Yet they get the benefit of doubt. Isn't it a travesty? India mustn't allow this. Thanks very much all gentlemen for joining me. Quick break.